Hi, Malar. I'm laughing because I'm thinking of what Ashok would do if, towards the end, right? Will do his. Yeah, that's right. How are you?
Okay, I'm good. I can see that you are Miss Ashok.
No, I'm just thinking, I just, the music just brings him up because he does it every week. You can see what's happening on the backstage. You're looking very intellectual today.
Of course, because we have a very intellectual guest, and our topic is also very highly intellectual. And
Oh,
for those who are joining us, we are still in Leadership in Flow Asia, and this is still Malar from from Malaysia. And today, well, the theme for this month is collaborative leadership and external collaboration for growth. And
yeah.
if you've joined our show, you know that our guest today is Kristina Rai, the CEO of Asia School of Business, right? I met Kristina, gosh, years ago. I'm not going to count the years. For those who joined us in our leadership festival, would have
Lead
met
festival.
Kristina at
Yeah.
the keynote and know
Mm.
what a magnetic, simple, straightforward, very much a heart-centric leader she is. And to have such a heart-centric leader leading executive education, I think it's amazing because
Yeah.
we need more heart that needs to come into the business. And we all know education plays a major part in our mindset and shaping the future of this world. So, with that,
Yeah.
I think we bring our beautiful, ravishing Christina upstage.
Okay, and I'm going to swap roles. Okay, no power to you, power to Christina. And
Yay!
as yeah, getting into that, I just wanted to say hello to Gerald Fernandez. As usual, he pops up and he says hello when Muller is hosting. Showing my biasness here. Christina, hi, welcome to the show.
Hello, hi Mala, hi Shamini. Thank you so much for the invite and thank you for the very kind words, Mala. We go back a long time, and I don't think I've been referred to as ravishing by anyone, but thank you for making my day.
Oh, seriously? I think well, we can put up a poll if you want confirmation, but
No,
we're
no,
not going
no,
to do
no.
that. But what
Thank
I
you, Sha.
realized is okay now. I need to get So I was listening to a podcast, and I think okay, I'll get the name correctly shortly. Yeah, Dr. Joan, I think. Now she says, when we're given compliments are very important for us to accept because when people give us compliments, they're actually showing up a mirror of the experience they've had with us. So
Thank
you're
you.
a
That's lovely.
person. Yeah, yeah. I'll get the right quote and the person shortly. And I think it is really important for us to say what we feel about you. And I feel a lot for you in the number of years that I've seen you and have experienced you lately. So that's that. Okay,
Thank you.
now, so uh, thank you for saying yes, and thank you, for always supporting us in this journey of wanting to influence the leadership space. Yeah, Christina.
Mhm.
And we know the topic today is external collaboration for growth. I think collaboration is big right now, and everyone talks about collaboration, right? It's nice, it's interesting, it's
Mhm.
exciting, right? But tell us, having doing what you do, leading executive education. How has executive education met today's business need?
Sure, thanks. So let me just give you a snapshot of what I do as the COO in the Asia School of Business. We were set up in 2015 in collaboration as a collaboration between the Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara Malaysia, and MIT Sloan. And one of the components that we have taken on a lot more intensively 2020, although COVID did put a damper on it, is executive education. We have
Mhm.
got a lot of programs related to our MBA, our EMBA, our Masters in Central Banking, and soon next year we'll be running out our Masters in Management. But on the other wing of what ASB does is about developing executive acumen and temperament, as well as corporate governance and the leadership aspects that come from leading the right way.
Mhm.
So, how has executive education met today's business needs? When I joined the workforce 30 over years ago, that's where I met Mala. She was this charming person who sat in the library and helped me tremendously. And I'll have to say, you yourself are incredibly energizing. So in those days, I hardly heard about executive education. It was almost something you heard people went for, but they would go to abroad for it, and it would be very very sparse. And
Mhm.
I mean, it would be something very much tailored or the remit of those at a much higher level.
Mhm.
In the 90s, I didn't hear much of it. By the time I went away to do my own master's in Manchester and I came back, we were in 1998 and 2000s. You started to hear more of this being an experience in a corporate setting. And it was a discipline as well. But again, of the few, you had the advanced management programs, the AMPs that you heard of, C-suite or the top notch, those people at the high end who had a great experience, and they always said great things about it. Today, it's so much more diffused. Number one, it's not just something that you get in top universities or business schools in developed countries, in America and the United States and UK and Europe, but you have this diffusion in Asia, which is an interesting outcome of the consciousness that, and it should happen because Asia has been the center of business, of where commodities come from, where you get your raw materials, where labor. I mean, you've had, great businesses in the West that have combined the almost cheapness or the competitiveness of all the Asian countries to sell and make brand names abroad, yet, nothing here. But the 1990s and certainly the turn of the century, we see universities and business schools flower, start to prop up across Asia, and entrepreneurship and innovation, which is something that is also a trait that many corporations in Asia have, and people managing and organizational behavior, and you start to see. I started to experience it when, as an organization, corporate started to identify talent. Sustainability wasn't about just the business of running the business, but the people to run it. And corporations and institutions started to invest in their people in a more deliberate and structured way. You want to hang on to your talent, you want to keep building them, you want to invest in them, they want to grow, you want to grow with them, you want to give them an aspirational target, but along the way, you want to support them. So the business of building up people has been what has been like the synthetic boost for executive education, and with that, the great more providers We see big names set out outposts in Asia and collaborate is one, but also setting up their own without entering into major collaborations, but bringing in an Asian flavor. So for us in the Asia School of Business, we are the intersection of blending the best of both and making sure that executive temperament is something that we jog along with corporations.
Nice. Okay, that's an echo.
Okay.
Sham, you take time because there's an echo.
You want to try? Are you hearing an echo now? Okay.
Okay, let
All
me.
right.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
No echo?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so
No
I
echo
just
now.
needed you. Sorry. Yeah, because I don't want to annoy people with my echo. Okay, good. I'm glad to be back. Now, I know while I want to dive deep into executive education and the collaboration model, right? You said something that's really interesting for me. You said leading the right way.
Hmm.
So, can you just tell us a little bit more? I mean, we are in leadership in Flow Asia, right? When you
Yeah.
say leading the right way, because you've given us a lot of ingredients as to, Asia, the kind of education where we were and where we are, and the kind of growth that has taken in this space, and how to make executive education relevant, right? But I think leading the right way is also a very important topic. So maybe before we talk a little bit more on collaborative, tell us a little bit about what do you mean by leading the right
Sure, happy to, and thank you for that. Um, so achieving and performing and output and results are great, but more and more it's how we get there. The issues related to corporate integrity. We've seen how some big names can bring big old companies down, put people out of work, and also how uh, bad behavior sanctioned by, I mean, that's unsanctioned, but sort of condoned because they bring in the money, can reverberate and cause great financial and economic downturns. Its behaviors, which is really, really bad. It annihilates, a lot of productive work, a lot of honest people working really hard and working really well. It annihilates it. So doing the right thing is also about corporate governance, how you govern yourself, how you are a responsible corporate citizen. More and more, we hear it in terms of climate, but before climate, it's how you what do you do when no one's looking? And we've seen some incredibly talented, clever people do some really diabolical things, and that's wrong. So I think the executive, the education of it is also to create the consciousness that you have to do the right thing. For so long, the ideas develop in almost colonial times or the age of how shall we say exploration of the 1600s. You had Machiavelli, but we need to balance that because Asia is also a great success stories for eons and centuries and millennia. But we almost adulate, almost a Machiavellian, almost brutal way of justifying returns. When in Asia, we have a much softer, more how shall we say, more diffused collectivism. You have got Confucianism. You have got, I've always wanted, why don't we look into Asian leadership of the great, civilizations, but also how it's changing today. And the issue of integrity and respect for the elements, all those things are sort of are falling away. So what we want to do is to always remind each other and remind ourselves that we have to do things correctly because of how our actions, they're not absolute. At the end of the day, we're all living in a relative, how our actions relative to how it impacts the others, the consciousness. So those are the things that I think any form of executive education and raising principled people who can execute and do the right thing.
Nice. You're basically asking leaders to take the road less traveled.
Oh yes, yes, I love that book as well. Actually.
Yeah. Because on one hand, I think leadership success is associated to the numbers. But if we begin to measure how these numbers are achieved, then we will then begin to ponder upon how we achieve the numbers, the path we take, and the impact this path has uh, on, on
Absolutely.
on us, on each other. So that's fantastic. So having said that, so it must be very interesting because even if you're looking for a collaboration partner or collaborative
Mhm.
partner, we need to make sure that we are matched where our values are concerned, our values,
Yes,
mission, and purpose, right? Because if that's not matched, then that's going to be challenging to make the relationship work. But
absolutely.
yeah, right. So, and now, why does now when you think about collaboration, right? Why do you think in the space that you're working, executive education needs a collaboration model? Because I mean, you're obviously working on a collaboration model, right? Tell us a little
Yeah,
bit more about the thinking behind the collaboration model and
yeah,
how it distinguishes the education that you're providing as well as bring about benefit to the business.
sure. I think collaboration is at the heart of survival. It's about cooperation. It's about certainly what both parties, all those collaborators get. It's important. We're doing this out of it's not pure benevolence. It's not pure altruism, but there has to be, as you said, the right values for that partnership to work. Collaboration for the sake of collaboration won't work if you have diametrical, absolutely contrarian values. It's not going to work. You have to partner with an entity that has this similar ethos, similar values. Uh, in our case, being an organization coming from the central bank, it's about the greater good, the nation building, going beyond self, a duty. It's and collaboration would mean where are those values demonstrated. So that's one. The choice of your partner is will make it or break it. That's important. Um, and that understanding for that cooperation to sort of take off. The other thing is in today's world, I always like to go back to Darwin, how, the survival of the fittest was not really his main mantra. His observation was about how the adaptability came from those that could cooperate the best. And I read something really charming about research lately about Charles Darwin and how Darwin was actually very taken up by how kindness and cooperation in the species that he observed in nature were the hallmarks of survival. And if I could just quote Darwin wrote that communities that were the most sympathetic, that had the most sympathetic members, would flourish best and rear the best offspring. And I think that's the heart of any collaboration, any cooperation, the kindness and cooperation of the partnership. It that has to be diffused. And he goes on to say that the mentality that the alpha, right, that the most successful is the one that is most dominant, is the most unsustainable survival strategy. So that's in nature. And we are organizations. The word comes from organism, I guess. We are living. We are a multitude of all the hearts and minds that come to make it. Yes, the nuts and bolts are the instruments, but you have to be driven by the same spirit, the energy, the passion. So you have to move away from being the best in everything. We can't. There's only so much resources. There's only so much we can burn out, and it causes a lot of stress if you think that is the only way to survive in business, for example. And I think this collaborative model that you see is everywhere around us, in every miniature of life. but more so in executive education, where we are trying to blend um, the stories, the energies, the passion, the foresight, and the values of incredible individuals that were knitted together, right? And the stories of developed countries in the West and the East and in Asia are actually what we want to surface most. And I think this is where the best of both worlds come in. If we work with that spirit of how do we extract is a word I could use, or how do we utilize each other's experience and history, and you had you were in the business a bit longer, a bit younger, but the gap is where both or the difference is where both benefit. So that's where it is, what's in it for both is where there is a gap. If you are equal partners, then sometimes it can be where the almost parity. Then you look at the complementarity of it all. You know, where do each other's strengths complement, and that's where I'm a big advocate of. If you want to be the only one and you don't collaborate and you don't blend, you're going the way of the dinosaur. It's extinct. You're fossilizing. You're gonna be too slow to react and too invested in your own mental mode that you just can't adapt and be agile. So
Mm,
I think collaboration, cooperation is about bringing that nimbleness into the
mm.
picture.
I like how you brought in the concept of adaptability through cooperation and kindness, and that adaptability is about survival at the end of the day, isn't it? It's making sure that our tribe stays or lives the
Yes.
longest, or has the longest chance, a better opportunity to survive. Yeah, there's a very interesting study amongst two groups uh, of beings, right? One was a chimpanzee, and the other was this other group of animals. I can't remember the name. I'll find out the name, right? And the chimpanzees are like chimpanzees. They're all the alpha. Who's going to beat each other up. Whereas this other group is what do you call calm. It's very kind. They help each other. They grow. There's no fights or very little fights. And everybody thought they would go extinct because that's the alpha right across, right?
Yeah.
Right? It's the survival of the strongest and the fittest, right?
Yes.
But this animal still exists, all right? And it's precisely, and they'll just live right across the river in terms of this experiment. But yeah, adaptability is about collaborating, working, being kind to each other, and seeing, how we support each other. Um, I've got a follow-up question on what you said, right? And that's around the idea of collaboration, but slightly in a slightly different way. So someone might say networking is collaboration,
Hmm.
right? And I've heard anecdotally how leaders choose to go for executive education or immerse themselves into it, or an MBA from a certain institution, or they choose to go for MBA full stop because they want to immerse themselves in that cohort. Why
Yeah.
do they want to immerse themselves in that particular cohort? Because it has a particular DNA, is because of the networking
Yes.
opportunities, right? So the growth comes not so much from the academic studies. The growth does not come so much from us doing all this work together and leveraging on each other's strength, but the growth comes from um, the network that I'm building when I do this program with this cohort that I'm going in, right?
Mhm.
Do you see that as reasons why some of your, for the lack of a better word, students
Mhm.
join the program? And what's the thinking behind it? What's the science behind that? What happens, or why is it that this occurs, this decision
Yeah,
or
sure.
practice? And yeah. Hmm.
Absolutely. I think networks are critical. We
Hmm.
go to school, education, the best part of education is they teach you how to socialize. You learn, but you also learn relative to how you are in a group.
mm,
Socialization is important, and children and young teenagers need that. If you take that out and you strip off the socialization aspect, it's a very one-dimensional education. And so
mm,
similarly, as you progress as an adult and you move up the ladder, so to speak, or you're in a business situation,
mm,
you realize that you don't know everything. It's not even the way we work in life, but you must be able to leverage on others. That's in your own outfit. Then you realize how interlinked you are to networked economy. The interdependencies. Again, the need to interact with others who can help you with business dilemmas, opportunities, opening doors.
mm,
You're almost advocate and champion in a different way. But certainly, that becomes a huge currency that you cannot gain by just, by wishing it.
mm,
That a network needs to have three-dimensional. It has to be immersive, and that's why you come to a certain school, for example, for the interactions, and they become a lifelong friendship
mm,
and almost a peer support to find kindred, people who have similar problems. But you realize you're not alone, and you learn to
mm,
reach out.
mm.
So, networking is important if you make that net work for you. It's a web,
Yeah.
and it's all very delicate. It's relationships. Sometimes
Mm,
there's chemistry, it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes you have to overcome that and
mm,
and start learning how to interact beyond your comfort zone. So it's not exclusive, but it is almost a boost that you get.
mm,
So
mm,
certainly many come to business schools and executive education for that um, peer network, as well as lifelong opportunity to sort of reach out in time. And it's
mm,
great to do with technology. You can have an ongoing WhatsApp group with people that you haven't met for 5 or 10 years, but you can ask, questions, or you can reach out. And that is the one thing that is accelerated with technology. What you had to rely on before, very slow movements. Today it's there. So how do you
mm.
leverage on that? So yeah, I think it is an important currency, and one that sort of pays dividends over time.
Mm, mm. And I think you've answered the next question, right? What you've described is a model of how of an element within executive education that's nothing to do with the curriculum.
Yes.
It's nothing to do with the design that's been put together, right? It's almost as if it's a byproduct of the fact that we're sitting together, but sometimes maybe even not a byproduct, but consciously put into the design of that whole experience that someone goes into. So it's a model, right?
Sure.
Now, if you take that model and if someone comes in purely because I'm going to look at building this network or this peer support group, and it could conceivably be with people who are potentially your quote unquote your competition
Yeah.
right now. So I'm in oil and gas, you're in oil and gas, we're sitting in the same company, I'm in the same program. It's competition, right? Yet it's a network, and we tap on each other. How do leaders think about that? Because you're competitors, right?
Right. Um, I think learning is the best place to sort of shed fear of being annihilated by a competitor. It is
Mm,
the safest environment because sometimes being together and you're in the same industry, um, you could problem solve together, but in today's how shall we say career
mm,
lifetime, you actually move around a lot. I read somewhere by the time in your 50s, an average person in America would have changed jobs 11 times. And when I look at how many times I've changed in my 30-year career, I stayed in one organization, but I actually
mm,
moved every 3 to 4 years. The longest I
mm,
stayed in one portfolio, but in the same
mm,
department was 7 years. And that was
mm.
long. And by then I was like, you know what? I need a change. I need a change. I asked for it and I got the
Yeah.
change. And then I moved on another 3 years, another 5 years. So I think it's also for us to understand you're not going to be competing with these people forever. You might
Yeah.
move to a completely different industry, and that
Mm,
connection and well, friendship, if it forms, can help you in a different facet. So today,
mm,
I'm picking up the phone and I'm talking to people, even like Mala. You know what I mean?
mm,
We've gone different routes, but um, the same industry, so to speak, yet different niche,
mm,
and we're complementing each other. And I think this is the spirit I prefer about where do I help with that balance.
mm,
So I agree. Sometimes you might be, in survival mode. But I think if you're in survival mode and you distrust and you cannot see beyond the learning, it's so
mm,
stressful, and it hits an immune system. Even I'm an individual, it'll hit the immune system of the organization eventually if
mm,
you're always on the fear mode. So I think it is a matter of I wouldn't give my trade secrets away, but I would love to learn, how you applied something, and the context is always different. You can't
mm,
transpose solutions.
mm, mm,
Right.
So it's more that I think.
Nice.
mm, mm,
Charm. Yeah,
mm,
I'm just so I was as Christina was saying, and I was going to just say when you spoke about networking and keeping in touch, I said I Christina and I only got in touch after more than what 30 years. Uh,
Yes.
and
mm,
I think it's really important because she said it, and I can also say it, right? She left an impact about who she is as a person. And I think it
mm.
is that impact when I met her again. I think we met in Sungai Buloh. I mean, we've been bumping into each other.
Yes,
I
you're right. Oh, you remember?
we've never had a conversation, but I think who you are just comes through. And when that idea of who Kristina Rai came across as more than 30 years ago,
Mm,
when that got affirmed when I met her over and over again, and also through her Facebook. And I don't think it happened consciously, right? I wasn't thinking about it. I did not, go out there and looked up for Christina and say, how do I aim and building a
mm,
relationship with Christina, right? I should do that more often, but I didn't, right? So what it reminds me is that I think when we understand who we are, we naturally, unconsciously connect with people who share similar values, similar meaning and aspiration, right? It is only when we decided to sit and have a conversation we realized how much we wanted similar stuff, and that's really
mm,
how LLF quickly took on. It's just that in that one conversation after 30 years, and from what Christina was telling me, whether we call it networking or even if you think about cold calling and meeting people and
mm,
having so-called trying to build a relationship, I think what we eventually look out for is the similarities if the way doing it the right way is important for us, if
Yes.
authenticity is
correct.
important for us, because
Yep.
you can't fake who you are for a long time. You can't fake what you believe in for a long time, especially when pressure gets to you, especially when it's a number game, right? And going back
Yeah.
to, I think, even competitors. Now, I mean, if I do a lot of work in emotional intelligence, and I realize that anyone. So one person whom I really really respect is another person who Intan actually, who does Shad. I told Intan. Now she does a lot of work in EQ, and I don't see us as competitors. I look forward to her raising
Yes.
the standard. So when I meet someone who is working in the same space, I actually have more respect for them because they raise the standard of my work and my aspiration to want to do better. I think competition is where you you don't want to raise your standard, and you're scared that someone will be better than you. But this someone can actually help you to be better than who you were yesterday. And that has a lot to do with, I would say, what Christina mentioned as the right way of leading. I know I'm not supposed to be like giving a lot of these things from mine, but I couldn't help it because I think a lot of the things that you said had a lot to do with how even Sham and I came together, right? I mean, the story behind that we didn't like each other is a different story. But if we think about it, I mean, really, we didn't connect as friends, but
Mm.
I think within there was a lot of respect for who she is, and
Yes.
the kind of trust that you build to say, I think we can hack this together. And that keeps you through difficult conversation and different
Mm.
decision that's going to make your collaboration stronger, right?
Yes.
It's true.
Um,
Yeah,
mm,
it's true. At the same time, I think certain personalities, at the same time, certain personalities, certain industries are predisposed to putting the self aside and looking at, how can we collaborate, right? Whereas certain other industries may not have that, may not build that feeling so easily. So if you bring it back to what you were saying, what you've described is a model of not just growing yourself in terms of your leadership growth,
Mm.
but not just from an academic point of view. You're also talking about it from another kind of view, right? Other parts that come to it. How do we not survive? How do we adapt? So we're not just doing it at survival level. We're looking at adaptability, i.e., long term, right? So if you take that model and you say, okay, let's put the components that you were talking about just now, Chris, put that into context. How do you see, what's your vision of the collaboration that you see happening in each cohort? And
Mhm.
what's the implication of that into exponential growth of leaders in our region, in the space that we are in Asia, right? Yeah. How do you
Yeah.
see that morphing?
Um, I think I think for one thing, I like to think m- that we have more abundance than scarcity.
Mm,
Really, it's about how we measure ourselves and regulate to not be too greedy. That's important.
mhm,
Um, as an outset, as to me, why collaboration is important. Now, how
mm,
does this help with leaders in the region? I think the different aspects of learning pedagogies or different case studies, which I think in Asia we lack
mm,
great stories and case studies about Asia, Asian leadership management, how we govern or learning to govern as corporate citizens. All that is missing at the moment. Perhaps it wasn't an area of priority for us. Also, maybe we haven't developed the eye for it. Um, so what happens when different cohorts come in, I find is they create the momentum for others after them. So,
mm,
but in an organization, I didn't like look at those that went for educate, structured leadership programs and saying like, it's not, like they've done great. It's a slow process. You cannot cite it either, to be very frank, to a
mm,
single program. But what I
mm,
find you can really cite and experience is the cohort bonding. So the best leadership experience, structured leadership programs I've had are those that you come out of it and you have a cohort of friends, and that's great. You know,
mm,
okay, so they chose you because you're high performing individuals and succession planning, but it was really a very nicely choreographed group. Then how
mm,
you sustain those ties in good and bad times in the organization. There's a shared experience and shared,
mm,
how shall we say, support. Then the other thing that helps others see, these programs as really powerful and impactful is if they see the coaching element come through and you demonstrate it in
mm,
your teams. So one person can infect, I prefer the word infect, or inspire through their daily actions of helping, coach people. And this is what you need to build most as you grow up in
Mm,
any organization. You infect four, you infect 10, and each of them, they see you walk it. They believe in that power of energy transfer and belief and empowering each other and having, short but impactful conversations or just sort of nudge points. They go on and infect others. And that's the exponential growth. It's not
mm,
about I go for one and there's one and there's another one. That's not that like I said, that's not sustainable. But
mm,
for it to be diffused, you every cohort must pass it down to their most immediates in their circle, and then you will see how these type of programs really come to the fore. And I find this is the best sort of support, the friendship. You know, I
mm.
can't fake it. I can't fake I like someone if I don't like someone. I try my best, though. I've been told. So I do try. I do try. I fail miserably sometimes, but sometimes I could do it.
Mm,
But you are you're prepared to show your vulnerability. And I in a corporate setting, it's harder, to be very honest, it's harder to expose your deepest and darkest, and
yep.
it's not the place. You have to be professional, but sometimes you need to have someone you can turn to and just say, I had a bad day, or it was really hard, or it's like the shared pain brings us together. That is priceless. That I can't buy. That I
Mm,
grow, and having people who I can reach out and trust. It's just, to me, it's just, I don't know. It's gold. It's precious. And when I have it, it's tender care. You
mm,
have to be appreciative of it, and you have to grow it. And others must see that as well. So, and also the discretion you hold if you're a confidant or someone confides in you or you confide in others. That again that's beyond currency. That's the
mm.
value. That's the value of the interaction. The what we talk about, whether it's networking or whatever, it makes the battle or the journey a lot more bearable.
Mm, mm. Thank you. You put executive education in a different light, right?
That's what
I
it's
think,
going to be. It should be
yeah,
different.
right. You've taken it away from academics, and you're talking about the non tangible benefits that you get from going through that trip, right? That trip, that journey. But it is that it's not the end, it's how you navigate that journey that's going to get you that
Yeah,
exponential growth,
yeah,
right? Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Yeah.
If I could
Right.
just say, it's like, and Mala mentioned Scott Peck's book, The Road Less Traveled. It's the road is hard, and it's not a path that many tread on, but it's who you bring with you. And to me, that is the essence of life. It's who you bring, and it's yourself. You have to rely on yourself
Mm.
mostly, but the journey just gets better if you don't need many. That's the other thing. I don't
Yeah.
need, like,
Yeah.
but just who else can come with me on this road less travel. So
Uh,
um
and
it, that's
and
important.
sometimes your growth is what I'm hearing is that sometimes we tend to look so inward that we forget that the exponential
Mhm.
growth comes from working with people on the out external, right? And
Absolutely.
creating that tribe of yours outside of what you're doing,
Yeah,
because it for all the various reasons that you have shared with us just now. I'm going to hand it
totally.
over to Mother. Waiting.
Yes, yes, I'm
Okay.
waiting. I need to read Nini Chong's lovely comments. But you know what I wanted to say? I don't know whether it's a paraphrase or a summary. Is that what I keep hearing from you from the beginning in different ways, right, Chris? Is that actually collaboration is really us coming together, maybe consciously or not. But
Yeah,
real collaboration actually happens because the more space we share in diverse areas and we come
yes,
together and stick together because of our meaning, purpose, and values, the stronger the collaboration becomes, right? Which also reminds me of a quote that says that you can go faster if you go alone, but you can go further if you had some friends with you, and these
Yeah.
are friends, relationship who share similar values with you, similar meaning, similar aspiration, right?
Yeah.
It's really diversity and inclusion in action. And I love the bits on coaching that you said, because this is where when we come from diverse background, whether it's our mindset or our diverse skills and talent, when you are in a space where you can receive that gift through your coaching, you then begin to also sometimes value what you can give then back to another, pay it forward, if I can
Yeah.
say that. Because sometimes we don't think about what we can do, not because we are selfish, but we don't think people can benefit. And sometimes when you receive, you begin to experience how much more we become and how much more we are capable of. And as I say that, I must say that one of the greatest collaborators I've been very privileged to work with is Nini Chong. And Nini Chong, has come on to say, okay, collaborative leadership is deeply rooted in our values. If we view life as a competition, feeling there's never enough for everyone, then teamwork might seem challenging due to a sense of scarcity.
Mm.
However, if we believe in abundance and intelligent planning, collaborating with others to reach a shared vision becomes second nature. It all boils down to our fundamental beliefs and perspective on the world. To me, being collaborative can effortlessly become a way of life, says Nini Chong. Nini, thank you so much for that
Nice.
really nice long comment, right? Now,
Thank you.
yeah, so I hope Nini gets to meet Chris one of these days. Yeah, so having
Mm.
said that, I think you have demonstrated how sometimes we look at growth as one particular pillar, maybe. But what you are saying is collaboration is increases your net worth
Yeah.
in ways that you may not be measuring, in ways that may not need a particular investment, which is why sometimes it is difficult to maybe measure it, right?
Mm.
And sometimes we don't realize it until you pause
Hmm.
and then recognize how it has contributed to the growth, right? Now,
Yeah.
how do you see this? Because I think moving into the future, on one hand, business is getting a lot more challenging. We need to do more with less,
Hmm.
right? And which means that we need to figure out ways to do it. So, how do you see all of these collaborative ideas that you're talking about, right? Will
Hmm.
help us to be more future ready as leaders and as organizations.
Yeah. I think it's as you mentioned about diversity, and when we network is one, but when we bring in diverse groups of people, people with diverse backgrounds to work together, to study together, to learn together, um, you reduce blind spots and herd mentality. That's very important. More and more, we realize it's also you have to have the courage, and sometimes you don't even know what courage means unless you see it being demonstrated, or you have people who are prepared to be vulnerable and share their most darkest points when they had to, traverse or make a hard stance or do the right thing. I think the one thing today in when we talk about collaboration and executive education, one thing that has changed tremendously is not about management. It's about knowing yourself. It's about self awareness and regulating yourself. Once you know the climate you create through your behavior, the your style and how it can hinder or help your teams from flourishing, from being productive, from being innovative. And this is the thing that has changed the most beyond different perspectives from different continents is the fact for the past 10 years you've had a lot more psychometrics come into an executive education program. You'd have 360s, you'd have a survey sent out, and then after that you sit down, and the coaching element is one that's to help you on your journey as you uncover very uncomfortable things about yourself. And this is the power of the leadership development today. It's about confronting your vulnerability, storytelling, whether yourself or those around you, to learn from your weakest and darkest points, and um, getting the how shall we say? It's not foundation, but the energy to make change. And I've always said, if you can't change yourself, you cannot change. You cannot bring change to any organization if you yourself cannot confront. And I'm not a, I mean, I'm not a deeply religious person, but I have been amazed when you look at all the great faiths. There's always that moment when you had to leave the comfort of the flock, go far, discover yourself, confront yourself, then you're strong enough to lead. And that has not changed. But in a corporate setting, that that trait or that journey is something that we don't talk about. So that's why we have a lot of programs today. If you unpick it, the difference is that mirror that it poses to you, and what can you do with it, and the support that comes through it. So I think it's the collaboration is one, but confronting is what all these programs, how we design it, whether it's immersive, whether it's, you have, different case studies, action, and all that. But at the end of the day, it's about you. And I think the deepest, the best kind of programs I've had is those that help me with self reflection, and I've partnered with people who had the guts to tell me things which I was not comfortable hearing, but I realized I had to do something about it. And sometimes I say, I don't know what to do. Just that alone, just to say that was hard for me. So I hope leadership doesn't have to be a lonely, solitary story. It should be about where do you harness all around you, and it's a balance. Who do you trust and who do you have to be careful about not, you know what I mean?
Mm.
It's all about your amygdala, your sixth sense, or whatever it is, your instincts. So how do you bring the powers of all that learning and intergenerational together? So hopefully, this is how we can create future ready. I don't believe you can be future ready if you are not now confronting yourself. And this is for any organization really, and that's where the transformation happens.
Nice, nice. Wow. So it sounds to me like, is that a great task? I think we're going back to, in some ways, fundamentals of
Mm.
why leaders need to have character strength,
Yeah.
right? Because when we look at moving forward into the future, what is constant and what is for sure, what is certain is uncertainty, right?
Hmm.
And in that uncertainty, um, we really need to go beyond who we are today to lead tomorrow. And how else can we do it if we don't have the courage to confront who we are and who we could be to lead the flock we are entrusted with? And for that, we can't do that with who we are today, is what I'm hearing, right? Because once you have that clarity about who you are, right, and that simply means, just not confront, like what you say, confronting your vulnerability. Because if I don't confront, then I may not have the courage to do the right thing
Yeah.
to move ourselves forward. And that is simply leadership, isn't it? Because I mean, for us,
Mm.
we often summarize leadership to be influence. Because once we are clear, we can then influence the people who trust us with our choices and decision making and leadership. So I thought that that was really beautiful. Thank you so much, Christina. I'm just going to hand over to Sham to ask the last question and close, because I'm like, I need to sit with this. It's so profound and deep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think the last question kind of would give us a summary or encapsulate what we've been discussing over the last an hour or so, right? Less than an hour. Um, so if you were to look at what do leaders, not everyone's going into executive education, obviously. Not everyone will consider executive education as the next path in terms of their development or their growth. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what do we need to change? What do we need to shift in terms of how we think about executive education?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think I want to break away from executive education as something that is a one-off.
Mm,
I'm a deep believer of lifelong learning. I'm a deep practitioner of just bite the bullet and do it and jump and keep jumping, and learning new things. I think it's also a strange outcome that people get executive education in their 40s and 50s when actually I believe you should have started it, well, early part of
mm,
anyone's career. And it is not about that single episode or that single few months or year that you spent immersing yourself. It's how do you continue it? And I like to think about us having a menu, a buffet,
mm,
right?
mm,
And at one stage, I want to have something more structured and more defined and a bit more longer. Then after that, I can learn from podcasts and then I can learn from a new stretch assignment. That's all about it. Executive, about my brain, how that part of me changed because of the experience, about the pain, about the joys, about what I learned, what I
mm,
learned about myself and the world and people. And I think that's where I would like to see everyone is an executive. Everyone, it comes from your executive function in our brains. So actually, we're all up there. It's like, and I would like to see it differentiated, and I would like to celebrate everyone's journey,
mm,
where there could be common points where we all went for a similar, maybe a leadership program or management program, and it taught us a domain understanding,
mm,
but the how it sort of spread into new things should be what it's part of my overall journey, right? And don't do it too late. Start investing sooner rather than later, younger rather than older, but continuously, and every facet. And we forget. I keep forgetting to. I do my yearly KPIs and my yearly performance, but I forget to do like my 3 year CV, how I changed. I know it's
mm,
journaling. People do that, but what's my career journal? 3 year, what did I do? What did I achieve? And then I took a break, 2 years, and then what happened to me? What did I bring, or did I move somewhere else? You see the CV, but it
mm,
is a summary.
mm,
And I think we need to do more of that reflection and encourage others to also look at it in a different way. That's why I love talking to people. It's like I love listening to people's stories. Yeah, I can get very immersed in other people, listening to other people because I find people fascinating, and so what I hope one day would be different is you see this not as an education but as executive experience throughout your life and how you made a change or how you impacted the greater good through your
mm,
decisions, because at the end of it, this executive education programs is about decision making and making the right decisions for for whatever purpose you have. So I go back to the fundamentals and hope that everyone has someone great with them on their journey or an outfit that can absorb them and a lifelong journey ahead.
mm. Very nicely put. Um, yeah, I like the way you think about it, and I like the way you framed it because it is that, right? It is the experience rather than the education per se, right? We at this point we've come through this part of our to this level of our lives where we've ticked off on all the things that we need to do to get into that role that we are in already, and we've progressed through. So how do we reframe it in our heads in terms of what we need to do for our development, right? It's an executive experience, and I can relate to
Yeah.
that. I relate to that, right? Very much. Yeah, given my experience with my MBA and things like that, it is the experience. It's the experience. It's uh, the people that you meet, right? And the knowing of what gives you clarity about what you want to do and what that's not the route I want to go, and that's the route I want to go in terms of how I want to lead my team, my life, or even if I'm leading an organization. So thank you very much for spending your hour with us,
My
Chris.
pleasure.
And before you go, I'm going to ask you,
Mhm.
what's the book you're reading right now? What's the book you're reading
Ooh,
right
let
now?
me see.
How many
Quite
are
a
you
few
reading?
books. I'm
Yeah.
terrible. I usually have like a few books at one go. Oh, I know I picked up a trashy novel. Oh, should say that in case there are any replays.
No, I love
On the
fiction.
plane, on my
Yeah,
on
yeah.
the flight. I'm reading a few things. I love
Hmm.
reading Rumi, so I've always got something that's written by Rumi on my bedside. Something. What title am I reading now? Oh, you should have told me this is coming. I would have checked my book.
Oh, that is this is
Let me think.
a trashy
What a few
novel.
books.
A
I'll
trashy
let you
novel.
know.
Very good. Thank you. And I love the fact that you said trashy novel because I like my fiction as well.
Yeah,
It
I know.
is
I mean, no, let me put
very,
it this way. By the time I get home, sometimes I just don't want to think. That's why I love
yes.
watching Bollywood matchmakers. Oh my God, I just don't have to think. I just go, what? Why? And that's it. Then never mind, suspend.
Yes.
So sometimes I just want to read something that just doesn't make me think.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we need to do that as well. That's our way of, stepping away
Right.
from thought. Have a
Nothing
good
profound at the
evening.
moment.
Have a good evening, Chris, and thank you once again. I'm going to put you back on the backstage while Mother and I close the show.
Thank you. Take care, man.
Thank you,
Great.
Chris. Stay
Cheers.
beautiful.
Ha!
Ha!
Ha! So, you're happy. What's your takeaway?
I am fulfilled. I'm not happy. I'm fulfilled.
Okay.
I loved. I love Christina. Number one, I think every time she speaks, she
Mm,
takes us from being logical to being truly superhuman.
Okay. I must say that it was a conversation about education that was not very education type. You know what I mean? It's not about curriculum and design
Well,
and things
actually, yeah, but I
like that. It's
think
not,
what she probably put education where it belongs,
yeah, yeah, I
right?
agree.
Because
Yep.
we've got carried away with education as the outcomes that the ticks in the box, right? The ticks in
Mm,
the box for us to move ourselves forward. But she's very clear. Education is who you become as a result of that experience.
correct.
And when that education or that experience is curated well, I think your growth is just greater to make the impact that you started out to make in your
Mm,
leadership role, is what I'm getting from
yep.
her. So I loved it. I loved it. Mm.
Good, good. And so we've come to the end of this week's show. We have another guest for next week. And we'll tell you sometime next week who it is and what is it about. But thank you for joining us, everyone, today for exploring the topic on external collaboration for growth. We want to wish you a very good evening. Please remember to join us again next week, same time at 6 p.m. Singapore, Malaysia time for our next guest on collaborative leadership. Bye, everyone.
Next, okay, next week is our summary week, darling.
Is it? It's already our summary.
I know, right?
Oh,
So yes,
oh, yes,
no,
summary. Yeah, I don't know.
it's a summary. Okay. So,
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
the guests that you'll be seeing are your hosts. So until we meet you next week with our summary, stay well and yeah, enjoy your
Yeah,
experience and make the change you set out to make according to Christina Rai. Bye. Good night.
correct. It is the summary week. My I'm now flowing through time rather than with time. Okay. Bye.